Trusts, Part 3, Invasion, Modification, and Termination. These are simple. The trustee's powers of invasion. Generally, unless a trust authorizes the trustee to invade the trust principal, the beneficiaries are only entitled to the income. Repeat, unless the trust instrument does what? That's right, authorizes the trustee to do what? Invade the trust principal, then the beneficiaries are only entitled to, that's right, the income. But there are 3 instances in which the trustee may invade the principal. 2 of them are by court permission. We need permission of court to invade the principal if there's only 1 beneficiary to the trust, or 2, there's a significant change in circumstances. The trustee may invade principal with court permission if there's only 1 beneficiary, or there's a significant change in circumstances. Trustee may invade principal when? With, that's right, court permission. If there's only 1, that's right, beneficiary, or there's a significant change in circumstances. Okay, why is this so? A sole beneficiary may need more income if there's a significant change in circumstances of either the beneficiary or the trust itself. The trustee might be authorized to invade the trust principal and distribute more income. But in either cases, we need what kind of permission? That's right, court permission. The third way a trustee can invade the trust principal is by an express grant in the trust. So the trust may grant the trustee the power to invade the principal, and this can be absolute or qualified. If it's absolute, the trustee has to act how? Oh yes, reasonably, when they exercise their discretion. Okay, so the trustee's powers of invasion. What's our general rule? Unless the trust instrument does what? Authorizes the trustee to do what? That's right, invade the trust principal. Then the beneficiaries are only entitled to the income from the trust. The trustee may invade the principal if they're by court permission under 2 circumstances. What are they? That's right, 1 beneficiary or a significant change in circumstances. And the third is when the trustee has been granted discretion. Trustee has been granted discretion. Discretion can be absolute or qualified. But in any case, the trustee is bound to act how? That's right, reasonably. Moving on to modification of trusts. Why do we modify a trust? To conform it to the settlor's wishes. The trustee gets powers of invasion for the beneficiaries. Modification is to better effectuate the settlor's wishes. Okay, easy, the cypre doctrine. A court can modify a charitable trust when the purpose of that trust is fulfilled or it no longer exists. So let's say the purpose was to find a drug to cure a certain form of cancer, and that cure was found. Now we have a trust and no beneficiary. So the court will use the cypre doctrine to substitute a similar beneficiary, or it might be in the terms of the trust that the res will just revert to the heirs. Okay, so the cypre doctrine authorizes a court to modify a trust when? When its charitable purpose has fulfilled. And do what? That's right, substitute a similar beneficiary, or if by its terms, the res could revert to the heirs, if that's what the settlor intended. Second, judicial. This is also called deviation. A judicial modification is also called a deviation. So a court can modify a trust if the trust purpose has been fulfilled and it's not charitable. The purpose is illegal, impossible, or complying with the trust terms would defeat the purpose of the trust. Okay, so that third point, I don't have a good example for it. But point one, judicial deviation, modification, the trust's purpose has been fulfilled. We've supported Aunt Betty. The purpose is illegal or impossible. And complying with the trust terms would, that's right, defeat the purpose of the trust. And what's our side prey doctrine? That's right, the court can modify a charitable trust to better reflect the settler's intent if that intent has already been achieved. And the court will substitute a beneficiary that would better comply with the settler's wishes, or if the trust terms dictate, the res reverts to the heirs. Finally, let's talk about termination of trusts. A trust can be terminated by unanimous consent of all beneficiaries. How can you terminate a trust? Unanimous consent of all beneficiaries. All the beneficiaries must have what kind of consent? That's right, unanimous. Okay, what about if some of those beneficiaries are not born yet? Well, then we can't terminate the trust, right? What if some of those beneficiaries are infants or they're mentally incompetent? Well, then we can't terminate the trust. So, unanimous agreement of all beneficiaries who are, unless some of them are remaining to be born or they're not competent. All right. A trust can also terminate by its terms. So it could be for a purpose or for a term of years. And when a trust terminates, what happens to the assets? That's right, the assets are distributed to the beneficiaries. Okay, powers of invasion. The trustee can invade the principal when there is one beneficiary, two, significant change of circumstances, or C, trustees given discretion. Trust may be modified via the cypre doctrine to better reflect the settler's charitable intent, or judicially when the trust purpose is fulfilled, it's illegal, it's impossible, or complying with the trust terms would just defeat its purpose. Finally, what do we need for termination? Unanimous agreement of all beneficiaries. If the trust is left to a class like my grandchildren, that's open, we can't terminate it because we might get more grandchildren. Or if some of the members of the trust are not competent or infants, we can't terminate the trust. Those people can't consent. The trust can terminate by its terms. And in any case, what happens to the assets when the trust terminates? That's right, they go to the beneficiaries. And that's trust part 3.